She likes to wear her hair blonde. Unfortunately, the hair right there in the front bang fringe area always turns yellow from her face makeup. The screen on the left is the after, that beautiful neon green, and the video on the right is us beginning to lay in the foils. I like to make zigzag partings. I don't like straight lines when I go in for the foil highlights because those straight lines can be hard edges and the different colors, they don't blend naturally when there's a straight part. She has about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of new growth, and in about 2 weeks it's going to be time for us to go in and do her bleach touch-up. So in between, we're going to drop this neon green hair color on her, and we're going to use some purple to act as our low lights. Now we're placing the low lights right there in the front fringe bang area so that that hair does not get discolored from her foundation. I begin by mapping out the section of hair where I'm going to place the low lights. I'm going to use the purple as the low lights, and I'm going to use the neon in between. I'm using the purple closest to her face so that that hair will not be discolored by her makeup foundation. I'm slowing down the video so you can see how I place the foils. I wrap the end of the foil around the end of the applicator, whether it's a brush or a brush, and then I use my 2 fingers to hold the foil in place while I apply the color to the foils. This is a hair color tip. I love to use 99-cent store foils. I know they have foils in the beauty supply store, but I don't like to use those for 2 reasons. One reason is they're printed on one side, so I can't use both sides of the foil. The other reason is the beauty supply foils are very thin and they don't stay in place as easy as these heavier foils. On textured hair that's curly, coily, kinky, thick, coarse, you want to use a heavier foil so that the foils keep the hair in place. Typically, foils are used to speed up the hair color processing, but I'm using the foils to isolate the colors so that the 2 colors don't bleed into each other during the processing. I'm placing 5 foils in this client's hair to give her highlights and lowlights. I'm placing the purple hair color closest to her face, and I'm sandwiching in the neon green hair color. I'm placing 3 foils in the bang area with 2 foils on either side, the right and the left side. I'm placing the clippy on the hair that's going to be painted with the neon green. I'm isolating it. I want to make sure it doesn't get any purple on that hair. I'll use the tail end of this brush, or a brush if you're using a brush, to make the zigzag partings so that I can place the foil in the front right side of the bang area. You want to make sure you get a good clean zigzag parting. You want to place that foil as close as you can to the scalp. Remember to wrap it around the end of your brush or brush. Use your fingers to hold it in place and then apply the color. You want to make sure that the hair is saturated with the semi-permanent hair color product. Semi-permanent hair colors, they sit on the outside of the cuticle layer and they fade with each shampoo. With semi-permanent hair color, you start with clean, dry hair and you make 1/4 to 1/2 inch sections, making sure you completely saturate the hair from roots to end. I always like to add a little goodness to the hair color mix. In this situation, I added collagen. I added collagen as a preconditioner to her bleach touch-up that we're going to do in a couple of weeks, right? Her hair is lifted to a level 9 and 10 on the ends. And we want to make it as healthy as possible before we go in with the color remover and the bleach and the new toner. I begin applying the neon hair color to her perimeter. I start at the front hairline and I work my way down to the back nape area and then up around to the front right side area. I begin the application like this because she wears her hair short and it's shorter in the perimeter, in the sides, and in the lower nape. So that hair is darker than the rest of her bleached and toned hair. The semi-permanent hair color is going to affect the different levels of her natural hair color. Her ends are a level 10, closer to the scalp she's a level 9, and at the scalp where she has new growth she's a level 8. I continue applying the hair color product to the nape area. I comb through with a wide tooth comb to make sure I get even distribution. That's even hair color distribution. I want to make sure I don't leave any holes or any gaps, any areas where I missed applying the hair color. After I've saturated the perimeter with the hair color product, I work my way up, starting in the back. For me, applying hair color is just like painting. You want to get the product on quick and you want to make sure you're precise. So I always work in sections. Working in sections allows me to control the product placement and thereby control the processing. In semi-permanent hair colors, there's no developer. So when I mean control the processing, I'm really talking about controlling the absorption of the product. I always say it's only in hair color where porosity matters. So her ends are going to naturally be more porous because they're the oldest of her hair. So I apply the product to the roots and then work my way out. I'm looking for maximum saturation in this hair color, so I'm applying it all at once. You'll notice in some of my other videos where I'm using a demi-permanent hair color as a toner after a bleach, I wait until the last few minutes of the toner processing before I pull it through to the ends or simply create a new batch of hair color to drag it through. I'm applying this semi-permanent hair color with our brush, right? This brush is like a brush, but it's far more gentler on the hair strands and the scalp. And unlike a brush, right, the hair color can get stuck in the brush's tips and you can lose hair color. With this brush, you can give every little teeny speck of hair color out of the bowl. And you can buy these brushes on our platform at beautywellnesshaircare.com. What do you use to apply your hair color? Do you use a bottle brush? Do you use a brush? Or have you ever used a sprush? The first time I used a sprush was back in 2009. A friend of mine owned Arosai products and they were giving away a free sprush as an incentive to the relaxer line, right? A gift with purchase. And that's how I was able to get my hand on a sprush back in 2009. And I've used them ever since. Once you use a sprush, you'll never use a brush. As I continue applying the product to her dry, clean hair, I'll just be quiet and let you watch what I'm doing. I've completed the perimeter, the back, the sides, and now I'm working on the crown. I continue by making 1/4 to 1/2 partings. I liberally apply the semi-permanent hair color to the hair so that it can be absorbed. And depending on what's going on with her hair underneath the neon green, that will determine how the neon green will process, right? She has darker roots, so that green will be darker at the roots. As it moves out to the mid shaft, it will lighten, and when it gets to the ends, it will be even lighter. It took me a total of 10 minutes to apply the neon green hair color, and it took me an additional 5 minutes to apply the purple lowlights in the front fringe bang area. After you applied the color, the hair color is when you begin the color processing time. You don't begin the processing time when you begin the application. Once the application is complete, then you start your processing timer. And for this application, we're going to process her at room temperature for 35 minutes. No plastic cap, no heat color processor, and don't put her under the hair dryer. A master colorist knows that with modern hair color products, you really don't need heat, right? The molecular weight, the size of the pigments are so small that they don't need any extra help to do their thing. And with semi-permanent and demi-permanent hair colors, they sit on the outside of the cuticle layers. And what happens when you put a plastic cap on a semi and a demi, or you put them under a dryer, what you're doing is you're driving those color pigments deeper into the cuticle layers and sometimes into the cortex layer. And what that does is it makes it difficult for you to remove the color, and it makes it difficult for you to color over it. So if you have a client and you've been using some beautiful browns or some other kind of Adore, some other kind of semi or demi products, and you're using heat to process the color, once you go in to remove them, or if you go in to try to bleach the hair, then you're never going to come up a clean, pure bleach. It's always going to be a dirty red orange, or if you're using something like a green semi-permanent and you've used heat, it's going to be a really, really funky green, and you won't be able to get a clear blonde. When you use heat with semi and demi-permanent hair colors, what you end up with is a stain. And just like the stain you get on your white blouse, it's impossible to remove. You think you've removed it, but once the light hits it in a certain way, you can see that the stain is still there. After I completed the neon green application to all of her hair, then I go in and I apply it to that little piece of hair that we're going to sandwich in between the two purple lowlights. I always go in and cross-check my hair colors, and I make sure that the hair is still wet and saturated in those areas that I first placed the color. And remember, I started at that front hairline, the perimeter of her hair. I'm going in and I'm applying additional strips of the foil because I want to make sure that purple doesn't bleed into the green when I go in to move the foils. Oftentimes when you move the foils, that's when you get bleeding. After the hair color has processed a full 35 minutes with no heat, then I go in and I rinse her with cool water and no shampoo. That's why it's important that the hair is clean before you put the semi-permanent hair color on, because you don't want to use shampoo after you've just applied the semi-permanent hair color. That will cause the color molecules to dislodge and simply rinse out with the shampoo down the drain. Start with clean hair. Don't use any heat to process. Use full force, really high pressure water to rinse the artificial pigments out of the hair. I dropped a little keratin on her hair and I sculpted and molded her. I dried her under an ionic hair dryer for 45 minutes, and this is the result. I finished her with our nourishing lipid serum. It's lightweight, it's organic, non-GMO, easily absorbed. Look at the result. You can see the variation in color because of the original hair color we started out with. She had new growth, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, and the hair around the perimeter, the nape and the sides was super short, so we saw more of her natural hair color. And the neon green processed on those various levels of hair color differently. It's darker at the roots and it gets lighter as we go towards the ends. I think it turned out magnificently. I mean, I just love this neon green hair color. I didn't expect the purple to come out so deep, but I guess because we applied the purple first and because that hair is porous, it grabbed the purple deeper than the rest of the hair color. Now, to maintain this intense vibrant hair color, I'm using the B3 Color Care shampoos. You can buy them on our platform at beautywellnesshaircare.com. Back to this hair color. Look how amazing it is. It's so shiny, I can't even get a good read from the camera. It's so vibrant that it's throwing off white. That's how shiny the hair is. With semi-permanent hair colors, you want to avoid high heat. That will distort the color. Now, this shade will last up to 25 shampoos. And the best part about it, it will fade on tone.